And you probably recognize our guest this morning, Mary Therese Grabowski, joining us live in studio, willing to come on and tell us about your friends America and Liberty.
These are two of the greatest characters in children's books. I'm very proud of it. Thank you so much for having me.
We love having you to not only talk about your book, but your movement.
Right. This is a movement. It is. It truly is. And I started writing it's the Spirit of America series. I started writing it, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And it's now become my life's every happiness, which is fantastic because I needed a job. So it's been truly a labor of love. But I discovered years ago when I left television and went to work for the 21st Century Partnership, I spent an awful lot of time in Washington, D.C. And I had a young niece back then who wanted to go with me all the time to Washington. I said, how about when I'm not working, we'll plan a trip. And as it came about, I asked her who makes up the president's cabinet, and she said, why do I care who makes his furniture? And it was shocking, and she's very smart. And so I then discovered, just by going into restaurants and seeing families and asking parents, can I ask your kids a question? Can you tell me the official address of the White House? And my hand to God, 300 kids I must have asked. You know how many got it right?
0 knew.
0.
Wow.
So,
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Good on you.
Gold Star?
You got it, yes. So the Spirit of America series was born. And she takes us on patriotic adventures. And, you know, kids are learning civics around about the 10th grade. This is a movement for my illustrator, Michelle Graham-Fricks, and I, to try to get kids interested in history and patriotism at an earlier age. But because I worked in the broadcast industry and in the news, I know how to tell a story. So we're taking historical events and breaking them up into smaller patriotic adventures. So, you know, we have a book signing tomorrow, which I know we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
But we're going to reveal some of our future books that are coming out. There are 25 in this series right now, so we're very excited to be able to share these.
It's taken on a life of its own, and it all started with just wanting to make civics lessons and history more accessible to kids so that they can get into it, learn it at a younger age.
Right, right. Learning it earlier and making it fun. You know, you want to make it fun. I mean, how many of us have had a history book given to us and it's this thick and it's here to learn? So, you know, I'm hoping this will be an aid to teachers as the kids get older, because now they're learning just the basics. You know, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's basic historical events but told through creative storytelling. So she's got some pretty interesting adventures that she takes kids on, and it's pretty fun.
And we're just scratching the surface, but you can meet Mary and hear all about America and her dog Liberty. It's going to be tomorrow at the Barnes & Noble at the Shops at River Crossing from 2 to 4. You're going to be reading, you're going to be signing books,
absolutely,
meeting the public.
Absolutely. Would love to see everybody. It's so good to come home, and I miss Middle Georgia. I live in the suburb of the D.C. area, and it's very hot there, just like Georgia, but you know what? The nicest folks in the world are right here, and that is absolute truth.
Couldn't have said it better. I'm sure Middle Georgia misses you, but you get a chance to see her tomorrow. Get on out there to Barnes & Noble. America and Liberty, at this time, they're going into the White House.
That's right.
Something that's been pretty popular to do these days.
How funny is this? Because I wrote this one 7 years ago, and when this hit Amazon.com back in March, they wrote, spoiler alert, the dog doesn't go to jail, because, you know, 4 people have in the last year for getting into the White House. But as they're looking for the dog Liberty through the White House, they're learning as they go along. And by the way, parents and teachers, at the end of every one of our books, we have a quiz so that your young patriot is learning
to make sure that they're picking up on the things you want them to get out of it, not just having the fun.
Well, you know, as they're looking for the dog, and I mean, what a great house to lose your dog in, right? You're looking all over the most famous house in America. And, you know, for example, America says to her dad, there's a man talking into his wrist saying there's a pooch on the loose in the White House. Close all the exits at once. And he said, oh, that's the Secret Service. She said, what's that? He said, that's the organization that protects the president. Well, when you get to the quiz at the end, you're asked those kinds of questions. What's the official address of the White House? Who protects the president? Where does the president work in the White House? Those kinds of things. So for adults, there are some who don't know the answers. You feel like Jay Leno's Man on the Street when you're asking these questions, you know. But it's fun, it's history, it's patriotism, and it is a movement and a labor of love all at the same time.
Outstanding. And like we said, just scratching the surface. We got a second one coming out soon, and you already have 23 lined up after that.
Absolutely. And if you come out to Barnes & Noble tomorrow, we will give you a sneak peek of the next book that is due out at the end of the fall, and we're very excited about that.
There you go. Meet America, meet Liberty, and meet Mary tomorrow at Barnes & Noble at the Shops in River Crossing from 2 to 4. Mary, an absolute pleasure having you in studio.
Pleasure's all mine.
You
It's
seem
so nice
very
to
at
finally
home
meet you.
here.
You know, it's like old home week, and thank you. I appreciate that. This has been a joy for me to come back and do this.
Well, we'll have you anytime.